Okay, so welcome to episode 1 of Rants, Fish and a Rice Cake.
Which
and
I still think is a brilliant name.
It's a great name. It's an absolutely great name. And actually, credit has to go out to Luke. I did give him a shout out. He's one of my followers. But we were thinking about a podcast name, and it was I think we had Jake and Dave's Rants and Raves.
I think that was your first shout, and then I think I said Reps, Rants and Rice Cakes, and I think it was then your client.
Fish and a Rice Cake.
The addition, which I reckon if this becomes a regular feature, we'll end up just calling it Fish and a Rice Cake.
Yeah, Fish and a Rice Cake, mate. And we'll have to get him on. Someone actually messaged me, was like, he used to cut, someone who follows me, he used to cut his hair. So Fish and Rice Cake guy was a barber.
I read something, he was in like I can't remember what it was. You know when you see stuff on like pops up on Facebook and it's like an article, like a Daily Mirror article of like what they're doing now. And I read something about that because he was on First Dates as well. Apparently recently, wasn't he?
So what they essentially did was they edited that Fish and Rice Cake thing to make him look like a proper idiot. Like he actually wasn't. Yeah, they stitched him up big time, but it's made him famous. Like the guy's, he smashed it. He's now, like I say, he's been on First Dates. He's got I think he's got like 500,000 followers on Instagram, and he's an absolute tank. Like he's in fantastic shape. So like, he's definitely gone against them, that's for sure. But so if anyone's wondering where we got Fish and Rice Cake from, it's and you don't know who he is because there was a few people on my Instagram who actually. He's years ago. What, five maybe more?
No,
10
it'd be
years
well
ago?
More than that. It was when I was like in school. It was like a BBC Three thing. Like easily 12 years plus, if not more, I'd have said. Like comfortably. We'll have to get it up.
We'll get like a little in shot or something like that, so everyone knows who he is. But if you don't know who he is, like go and Google it because he's a cult hero and he's a legend. You know, at some point, if this podcast takes off, we'll get him on. We'll get him on. So listen, I think today we're just gonna this first episode. This is the first podcast I've ever done. You might have been on.
I've done a few in the past. I've done a couple in the past and whatnot, but not this sort of setup. It was a standard lockdown, like Zoom call, recording the blurry image, like not quite getting a good audio,
that kind of stuff.
Like with me washing, drying behind me, trying to like get it out of the shot. Yeah, never looked great, but it went well though. They were decent.
Yeah, good. So I think today we're just gonna get an introduction to us, I suppose. Pretty much standard, innit? Because you're probably all very confused as well, because like, especially people who follow you, they're like, hold on a second, why is it called Jake and Dave? Like, so.
Yeah, so because I get it a lot, I'll get sometimes people message me, meaning to message you, because obviously our socials are both Jake at Biceps Banter, mine's Jake M at Biceps Banter. Yeah. Which is obviously, we said when I came on board, because you were there a lot longer than me, or I've been there a lot longer than me, that we needed to have some sort of different name to differentiate. So you've all taken to call me Big Dave, which I've literally never. I used to get, so obviously my first name is technically David, innit? I used to get called it when I was at school, when my mates were trying to take the piss, because I've never been referred to as it. And then now it's stuck. And now I've even got like all the Blitz people call me it.
Dave.
Clients that I take on from Blitz call me Dave, and I'm just like, this is the name I never wanted. I've ended up with.
Clients say like, oh, who's Dave? Where's the Dave come from?
Sometimes. Who was I had to send something to a client the other day, and I had to give him my bank details, and that always gets them because my bank detail is obviously David.
Of course.
And then they're literally like, who the hell is David? Yeah. I'm like, we've been working together 2 years, but that's my name.
I'm not scamming you, like he's actually me.
Yeah, but I think this is quite nice because obviously there's a lot of people. Obviously you've got your followers, and then I've got mine, and I think there'll be a lot of, just in terms of an introduction, your guys obviously all know who you are, and everyone, I hope, knows who I am. Yeah. But when it comes to crossing over, we know we work together, but they won't know me, and vice versa. My guys won't know you. Yeah. So it's always an easy place to start, innit?
Yeah, definitely.
A quick introduction.
Yeah, just to clarify though on that, if you do hear me, I will call you Jake. I will call you Big Dave. So we'll probably I'll just switch between the two, like depending on what.
I'll respond to anything, to be honest. Yeah. Call me what you want.
So, go on then, Dave. You start. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're at, how you got here. Let's go.
Yeah, so obviously we're both online coaches. I hate the term. I was at a wedding yesterday. Great wedding. Yeah. I was at a shout out Chris and Tom, by the way, because the wedding was amazing. Me and Sophie were at it, and we were literally like, if we were to get married, or probably will at some point. I know. We've been together like 5 years. Lived together, got a dog, But the wedding that they had yesterday was like beautiful. Anyway, I've completely forgotten my point. What was it? That was it. And people ask me what I do, and I always say nutritionist, because I always think that when you say you're an online coach, because of the amount of sort of online coaches, sort of wanky terms out there nowadays. I don't like saying it because I think there's a lot of connotations with that. So I still say it now, nutritionist, and I kind of get away with it because it's technically what I've got my master's in. So I'm like, I can get away with that because it's technically what I did. But yeah, so obviously that's what we do. I've been doing it now for like 3-4 years, if not a bit longer. So I was never going to go to uni. My plan was always to be a professional rugby player. Played rugby for like 10 years, realised I wasn't actually very good at it.
I was going to say, my plan was to be a professional footballer.
Yeah, it's always how it starts, isn't it? Yeah. So I realised pretty quickly that was never going to happen. And then towards the end of sixth form, it was like, okay, I have no idea what I want to do. I was in a fortunate position where like my family have like a family business. So I was like, I can just work in there for a bit and figure out what I want to do. And then I remember literally like a month before deadlines for uni applications, one of my mates was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and do strength and conditioning at uni. And I was literally like, what the hell is that? Because at this point, I'd got really into my training. I think I'd just started dieting for like a lad's holiday because I was I wasn't a chubby kid, but I was the chubby one out of my friends. Okay. So I was like, I want to diet down for my holiday and sort of be a bit happy with how I'm looking. So I'd got really into the gym, and then my dad was massively into my gym. My dad's used to be a bodybuilder, and sort of it's always been a constant presence. Like we grew up just going and sitting in the gym sometimes whilst he'd train, and this, that, and the other.
That's going to be fun,
so then one of my mates, when I remember in sixth form, I was sat in the common room one day and I was like, so what are you going to do after we finished here in a month or two? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go to uni and do strength and conditioning. And I was like, what the hell is that? And he's like, oh, it's like sort of gym-based training, but for athletes. Yeah. And I was literally like, is that a thing? I was like, I've never even heard of this. I was like, that sounds amazing. If I can't be a rugby player, I'll try and train them. So that's what I went to uni and did. And it went really well. So I did my undergraduate there, worked as an S&C coach for York City's academy for a bit. Then I ended up getting a job at Wakefield Trinity, the rugby league lot, with their academy. Worked there for 2 or 3 years. Went back and did my masters. Did that in nutrition because I realised that I actually didn't want to go down the S&C route for a lot of reasons, which I won't bother getting into. But similar to obviously Dan's background is in S&C as well, and he's spoken a lot. He worked at a much higher level than I did. I was literally just academy, but for a lot of the things that he says to his reasons as to in terms of like the application of strength and conditioning to like, it might be different now, but certainly when I did it, it was there, but it wasn't respected. It wasn't sort of acknowledged. It was sort of just like, oh yeah, we've got that to tick a box to say that we've got them.
Dan saying like, I think he was at Hull, and you'll probably like correct me on this, but I'm sure he was saying like he would give his advice and essentially just be kind of like brushed aside. It was like the old school.
Yeah, and it was one of those, and like if the skills coaches or the head coaches ever needed to get time back from a session, it would be taken out of S&C sort of thing. Yeah. It was good. It wasn't. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't terrible, but I just realised I was like, I don't want to be doing this. So I went back to uni, did nutrition at Leeds, and then started up PTing on the side. And it was literally that. When I started PTing, it was, I'll do this just whilst I'm doing my masters because then I want to drop in and do my PhD and sort of take that further with nutrition. And then it just sort of PT just kicked up. I finished my masters. I finished my masters, and I was like, I'll have a bit of time out, go back to it. And then the more time out I took and the busier I got with PT, and I was like, actually, I quite enjoy this. And I don't really want to go back and have to study some more right now. And then lockdowns hit. So I was living in York at the time. Lockdowns hit, so it was like, right, we either go online or I find a completely different job and do something else. So, and that's basically led us to where we are now, where I'm 3 years down the road and have recently obviously joined on with you guys at Biceps and Banter, which has been wicked. It's been nice, actually. It's been a really nice change.
It's good to have a little team in it, like that way, obviously, and like, you know, it's nice to have that little camaraderie of a little group of coaches.
Yeah.
And I suppose for you then, so obviously you've got all the qualifications, you've got the experience of you PT'd, etc. But from your own training, your own nutrition, what do you think? Where do you think you struggled with stuff? Do you know what I mean? So like, I think you can relate back to maybe your clients that you've got now, things that you've gone through.
Yeah. I think obviously my introduction into it was partly just to improve my fitness for rugby at the time. So I think I joined up a gym when I was about 12. I went down to the local leisure centre and got an induction. My dad had to be there with me. And we both got an induction into this gym, which was ridiculous because the day that we got inducted, the woman who did the induction, she's lovely. I can't remember her name, but my dad knew her from when he used to compete a few years before with her. And she was having to go through the induction and like tick the boxes, and she'd be like, okay. She was like, can you show me how to do a leg press, Stuart? And so he'd have to sit on the machine and show. And I'm like, he knows how to do this. I was like, but he had to be there because I was
stuff. You have to tick.
Yeah, and she was like, I know you know how to do this, but we've got to tick a box. But so I got inducted into there when I was about 12. And the big part for me, like I said, was just because I always sort of was a bit of a, again, not a chubby kid. I can't sit here and be like I was a big kid because I wasn't, but I was definitely chubbier than so I've got 3 brothers, chubbier than my brothers, chubbier than most of my mates, very aware of it, wasn't happy about it, joined up the gym to do something about it, and it just, for whatever reason...
You got the bug.
I got the bug for training, but did not see any change for a long time.
Right, okay.
Tried everything under the sun going through the years. It wasn't until I got to like 18, 19 where I started to see some sort of progress. And then in more recent years, the struggle has just been putting size on, which I think is a struggle for a lot of, obviously being natural and not using anything. Like, I think it's easy with social media nowadays to expect to just, and some people do gain muscle much quicker, even naturals. Like, it unfortunately does a lot come down to genetics. Obviously, it comes down to how you train, how you eat, how you recover. But when you've got that in a good position and it's still taking a while, that can be difficult.
Frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously for us, that then does impact the work side of things. With, if you don't look a certain way, you're almost perceived a certain way before you're even heard.
It's just the fitness industry, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's just been that, and it was a long time finding what would work for me. Like I said, tried keto, I've tried fasting over the years, tried everything really, just more of sometimes just to give it a go, just out of curiosity, and sometimes because it was like, this must be the way to do it. I think I remember the first time I ever got lean, I literally did it by just cutting out anything that had any sort of sugar or carbs in it, and I just avoided it for like months on end, didn't drink for months on end. It's just to get lean for a holiday, and then obviously you go on holiday and you drink for the first time in like 6 months. It absolutely hit me. I think I ended up having. I was the only one out of 19 lads that went to Malia that had a night in, because I just could not. I mean, I'm not a big drinker anyway. I just couldn't hack it. But yeah, so it's all sort of being around that and struggling just to now sort of build size and put that on, which is happening slowly. But primarily at the start, it was just finding the way to make it work for me and not sort of getting hooked in by different magazines and sort of different quick fix diets and all this, that and the other, that you supplements, the amount of supplements that you try and
well. I was massively I used to buy every episode of Men's Health and like do, you'd see the ripped guy in the front, it was like he'd have his diet plan inside there, you'd have like his workout plan
6 week ab blitz,
and it's like, okay,
and then you'd have a big 2-page spread for like aspartic acid with a picture of a guy that's stacked, and it'd be like, this is how they've done it.
Like, oh, buy this fat loss bundle while you're
you're like, I'm on it. All that stuff, all the fat loss burner bundles, everything. You try it all, don't you, over the years? But yeah, that's pretty much me. That's how I got to this point now. But what about you? You roll with it.
I'm a little bit different, to be fair. So I mean, not completely different, but so I've always been sporty. Like, I've always played football. I've always done stuff like that. So I've always been into fitness, and I think one of the classic ways into PT is like, maybe you've not been the most athletic when you're younger, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna do something about it. I never really went through that. I was similar to you, Si. I wasn't the most in shape kid, I suppose, but I knew that I was into sports. I was always into it, and I knew that one way or another I would end up doing something in the fitness industry. I don't know what it would be. Like, obviously I wanted to be a footballer. It didn't really go to plan. So like I got to like 17, finished sixth form at the time. Or like the first year, sixth form, dropped out because I wasn't the most academic. I was like, I'm more practical. I don't I'm more practical, like to be hands-on with stuff. So I was like, right, well, what the fuck am I going to do? So I was like, okay, so I went and got my level 2 gym instructor. Like, literally at 17 years, fresh 17, like worked in a gym for like 6 months, LA Fitness, which was great because I developed like personal skills. I managed, I was training people who were 60, 70, 80 years old. I was training.
You get to know a lot of different people, don't you?
I was training my mates. I was like backdooring my mates into the gym at the time, like training them, giving them programs. So I just got into it at a really young age, and I loved that side of things. I loved the social aspect of speaking to people on the gym floor. But I was like, that wasn't, because essentially gym instructor is like glorified fucking cleaner as well. Like I was just cleaning treadmills like 4 hours a day, which was great at that age because I was also just going out and getting drunk like 3 times a week. Coming in, I remember we had like a pool, and one of the jobs like weekly was to clean the scum line in the pool.
Right. Yeah.
LA Fitness. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I usually go out to like 4 a.m, get absolutely steaming. Coming like, right, I'll do the scum line. I'll be open the gym at 6 a.m. and like I was definitely still drunk. So I'd just get in the pool, have a little swim, go and sit in the sauna in the steam room. So it was like, I was loving life at that time. But I genuinely enjoyed what I was doing as well. I just knew that I had to do something else. So I went back to college, studied sports science, did 2 years in that. I then went and did my level 3 personal training qualification as well. And at this point, I was like, I was training people. Like I was giving people programs, I was coaching my mates and stuff like that. but I didn't know where I wanted to go. So I actually thought, you know what, I'm going to do physio. I'm going to do physio because again, that was something I was really interested in.
I looked at that that was the first thing I looked at uni, and I went to an open day, and the woman basically said, because I'd left it last minute as well, and I remember going to an open day at Leeds, and the woman basically, after I listened to a lecture, she was like, have you got any work experience with physio? And I was like, no, nothing yet. And she was like, well, if you haven't got at least, I think she's like 100 hours already, you're not even going to get a look in, so don't bother. So then I was like, all right, cool, yeah, well, I'll stick with this strength and conditioning thing. Then I was like, it's more my level. Like, and it annoyed me because then when you go to uni and you speak to the people that are on the physio course, they're like, oh no, I ain't done any.
I did do a bit of experience. So Trafford General, which is actually around the corner from me, I went and worked there for a bit, and just for free. Like, again, it was. And I suppose maybe that's what changed my mind a little bit, because I was like, actually, it's not that glamorous. And like, I mean, I know there's a point you can get to where you work, because my goal was to like, I was like, I can work at Man City. I get my physio degree.
As you do.
I just stroll
just
in
walk in.
like.
Whack the degree in the face.
Yeah. I got a second, mate. So I was like, I debated it. In the end, I was very close to going to, I think it was Preston Uni, actually, was the one that I was closest to going to. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to go personal train. Like, I love my own training, and again, I know that's not a reason. You've got to want to help other people as well, but I enjoy helping people, so I go and do my own shit. So I went and got a job as personal trainer. Worked in like a number of gyms, 5-6 years, like fully booked. Like I was doing like 5 in the morning till 9 in the morning, 6 in the evening till 10 in the evening, coaching people. And like the weird thing, and you'll appreciate this, but the weird thing is about, and you've done it in maybe a slightly different route, but because I didn't get like a nutrition degree or anything, I suppose what I struggled with the most was I was fantastic at training people, like hands-on, like in the gym, like there wasn't much in my eyes that I wasn't very good at, and I was good at dealing with people and their issues and stuff, but I didn't know enough about nutrition, so that was my downfall. And for years, even with my own physique, like I used to train really fucking hard, but I didn't know enough about that side of things. So like my physique never really changed. Like, you know, I just used to, again, honestly can't tell you the amount of money I spent on like fat supplements, fat burning supplements, everything under the sun. Like literally I tried everything. I did keto. I cut carbs out. I was convinced that HIIT workouts were the way to burn fat.
Yeah.
Like I honestly can say, hands down, I have tried fucking everything. Like I tried everything before like the age of 25. I was into my training. I wasn't seeing the physique that I wanted, and ultimately it was down to that I didn't know enough about that side of things. So yeah, anyway, one thing led to another. Got a few nutrition degrees and stuff later on, and did loads of seminars and learned from some of the more knowledgeable people in the industry. And then you realise, oh shit, like the penny drops. And like you know, and you're like, okay, wow, like this is where I've been going wrong for all these years. And then I started seeing changes in my own physique. I started helping people with theirs and seeing bigger changes on that front as well. But I did actually leave the fitness industry for a couple of years. I won't bang on too long, only because I was working those ridiculous hours.
Yeah, I remember you saying, you told me this, didn't you, the other month?
Yeah, and it was like, it just got a bit. I was like, I wasn't going out with mates as much. I was working till like stupid o'clock, like, and they were all going out and having a good time, and I was getting a bit jealous. So I was like, okay. So when I worked in an office, basically selling like printers and copiers and stuff, which was great money, and it was a 9 to 5, which at the time I wanted. But I just kind of those long hours were killing me, so I did this, and at the same time, without realizing it, I was kind of online coaching people, because people knew that I was like into my fitness. I was always like people. Kind of in shape myself. Like I was always going, you know, I'd be the one guy in the gym like with his protein shaker in like the office with his protein shaker and stuff. So people used to ask me stuff. I was always like, I was even giving programs out to people and giving them like nutrition plans and things, not meal plans, but nutrition plans. So I was always doing it without realizing I was doing it. You know, it was weird. And then, a few years later, I kind of started seeing more kind of COVID time, started seeing other people doing online coaching. And I was like, I kind of dismissed it. I was like, is this like online coaching? This sounds like a load of shit. So I was like, I just kept an eye on a few people's Instagrams and stuff, and then I was like, you know what, people are clearly like, you know, helping people and doing well. So I was like, I'll have a little dabble, and like I literally I probably coached like 5 or 6 people for free, you know, just for a period of time, just so I got to grips with how it all worked properly. Got people really good results. I was like, shit, I'm pretty good at this. Like, you know, I can do this. And then one thing led to another, and then 2 or 3 years later, I've been online coaching properly now, and love it.
Yeah.
It's like it's the best thing I've ever done. Like,
Yeah.
I genuinely love it. But I think, like I say, you can have. We spoke about this before, like off air, but like you can have all the knowledge in the world. I think it's more down to what people relate to is your personal experience. Microphone, and like the fact that you can help people, and the fact that you've got experience helping other people. Oh God. So yeah, so I think it's knowing that we've been through it all, like because I think Instagram's like.
I think that's it. I think neither of us have come from a background where we picked up a set of dumbbells and then not knowing what we're doing. 2 months later, we were ready to go into a show or something like that, and then everyone's come and asked us what we've done, so we've just given them the plan that we've been given. Like we've not come from that background. It's very much a case of even to get to just where we are now. It's been a lot of figuring out and a lot of work and a lot of trial and error. So.
I've been in the industry for 15 years essentially, like one way, shape or form, and I'd say the first 5 or 6, I was just finding my feet. It's like when you pass your driving test, like you don't know how to drive. You learn to drive after you pass. That's it, and it's the same with this stuff. Like it just comes with experience, with dealing with people, with trial and error with your own shit. Like, like I say, I spent countless. I wasted so much money and more importantly time, like just doing the wrong stuff for years and years. So yeah, that's kind of it. So
yeah, that's pretty much how we got to
where we are
today. Yeah.
Now we're here, kind of talking about it, and both kind of fairly busy one-to-one.
And I think that's what we're aiming to do with this as a whole thing is just chat about those things, chat about the stuff that we've struggled with through that time, or stuff that we speak to our clients about on a regular basis, that they're struggling with, problems that they come up with, our opinions on stuff really.
Yeah.
We don't.
Well,
it's
we
not going to be.
Fitness industry.
Yeah, we're not going to. I think there's enough sort of sciencey. Based podcasts.
Yeah, we might do the odd sciencey one. Do you know what I mean? Just to, if anyone asks us a question, we might dive into the topic. But
it's more just going to be
it's more about just
from what we've seen and what we've experienced, isn't it?
Rants.
We're going to be going in with
rants,
basically, and some. I was going to bring my rice cakes actually because I am actually having them at the minute. I've not had them.
Okay.
Coincidentally, I have not had them.
Fish and a rice cake.
No, not fish and a rice cake. I'm not a fan of fish. I haven't had them for years, and then just because I've started going into this diet, it's just something.
They're handy though, aren't they?
They are. I took them up to the wedding with me yesterday. It was like useful for car journey. I was going to bring them in. I was going to completely forgot them. I was rushing out the door this morning. It did not go well. I got halfway here. I was on the M62 and I was like, forgot my rice cakes. Forgot my rice cakes. I was like, what's going on? But yeah. So I think we'll wrap that one up there. Yeah. I think that's a nice little introduction. And then
where we're at.
Yeah, and then from here we'll actually talk about something useful.
Yeah,
I reckon.
So yeah, thank you for listening us just ramble on about stuff. But hopefully it gives you an insight into us, because sometimes like you can just hear people talk about fitness and be like, well, they must have it easy, and like we've been through it, we've been through shit. So
yeah.
See
you in the next one.